Welcome to another episode of On Foodable Weekly, where we cover all things in the restaurant industry, literally technology topics, culinary topics, trends, consumer aspects of the business that really face the operators on a day-to-day basis. We are here at the FS Tech Show in New Orleans, and we're talking about digital signage. And I've got some really great guys here. We've had a fun time on the set today, kind of having topics on drive-through and mobile and software as a service. Now we're talking about digital signage. Lyle, let's open up with you a little about who you are and what you do.
Glad to be here. Thanks for airing this program, by the way.
Yeah.
Because digital signage is one of those very, very high growth areas. My focus is in working with end users to help them get the best advantage out of the enabling value of this media, to select the right vendors and to integrate that digital media program into their broader enterprise plans.
Great, I love it. Panasonic, of course, is an industry standard. You guys, of course, have been leading the way in digital signage. Talk to us a little about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Jeff Pence, Director of the Food Services. I really focus on the food service industry, so providing digital signage to restaurants, both indoor and outdoor. But beyond just the manufacturing the panel, we're also a total solutions provider. That means installation, project management, deployment, even content development, creation, and management as well.
Guys, let's go into kind of the basis of where digital signage has evolved from, and obviously we've seen it over the years. Kind of, if you look back as far as 10 years ago, you know, it kind of appeared in airports. You know, those were kind of the genesis of what we began to see digital signage use in, and then it made its way into the restaurant industry. So obviously, consumer trends, Lyle, what are you seeing in terms of what people are expecting from a restaurant chain or an operator to use digital signage?
You know, you're right about its longevity. It's about a 25-year-old communication instrument.
Yep.
And for the last dozen years or so, we've seen the transition of static signage and menu boards to digitize them in order to reduce the cost of day parting, for example, and to better target market. Now the paradigm of digital signage use is really to add to that experience, to increase throughput, to add those 5-6 more people per hour, those 5-6 more cars, and also importantly to generate the revenue not on a current visit, but to position the experience to assure that future visits occur and to increase the traffic in a target market base.
Yeah. You guys, of course, at Panasonic do a lot of trend analysis throughout the years. You guys have contributed a lot to the industry. What do you see in terms of consumer trends kind of leaning toward walking into restaurants or hospitality venues and kind of expecting to see a digital signage or a kiosk?
I think you nailed it. They're expecting to see it now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been enough brands that rolled it out now, so when you walk into a place that doesn't have it,
feels dated.
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
bit.
So I think, you know, the age of the consumer that everybody's really vying for, the millennials, is they expect it.
Yeah.
And so the trend is now how to engage them in other places, maybe not even just in indoor, but maybe outdoor digital, outdoor signage, or maybe in dining room entertainment,
right,
with some sort of digital panels and stuff like that. So
interesting. And of course, the technology is kind of the backbone of how to get that out there. You know, high bright LCDs for outdoor use. The panels themselves obviously have increased dramatically in size and availability. You know, what are you seeing, Lyle, in terms of equipment that's hitting the market today around digital signage?
Much more integrated solutions. So the flat panel is integrated with the media player. They're harmonized for optimal performance, for minimum power consumption, to respond to the ambient light conditions of the day. Integrated with point of sale systems and other databases, other feeds, weather,
social,
traffic patterns,
yeah.
social. So much more integration. And on behalf of those companies that are asked to supply, end users, brands, food services providers are looking for that single throat to choke. They don't want to have to be integrators themselves and figure out where the finger's pointing in order to get something back up online and positioned for the next generation of use.
Yeah, because it is one of those critical positions. I mean, if it's a menu board, that is a stopgap.
How do you live without that?
Yeah,
Right.
It's kind of like a point of sale system. I mean,
Right
at least
on.
you back in the day you went to handwriting, but most people, of course, now don't even know the prices on the menu board in the operations side unless you're
Right on.
a GM or someone of that. When you look at on the equipment side, Panasonic, you talk a little bit about kind of this soup to nut or 360 approach.
Right.
What are some of the technologies that you guys are implementing today?
Well, I'll tell you back to your about what do you do without a digital menu board.
Right.
I mean, thankfully, most locations have more than one digital menu board. So we do and have created a lot of backup strategies. So when this panel's out, how do I shift the menu in a smaller sense over to one menu board and live without it? So it's a critical component.
Let's talk about the holistic approach toward consumers, Lyle.
Yeah.
How they're expecting content.
Yeah.
Okay, so rather than just being a menu board, what do you see in bringing that brand identity? Because there's a lot more opportunity now, obviously,
Yeah.
with something like a digital
And this
sign.
is the area that we'll see the most growth in the next 5 years. By integrating anonymous viewer analytics, for example, being able to capture the demographic of that patron who's in front of that menu board, and by being able to dynamically provision, dynamically serve up the content, even as the order is being built, to supersize or to add to the order a dessert or a different high margin item. So in the next 5 years, we're going to see an acceptance of that assisted selling, that media-based relationship, and that assisted selling at that order counter, at that drive-through, at that table, wherever there is an interaction between the menu and the patron. Those patrons are going to look for that experience, that visit being enabled,
Right.
for them and their family and their friends to be drawn toward that establishment in future.
So you've got that component, you've got this branding component going on. Now we throw in this whole thing about mobile and the tablet,
Yeah.
and especially with the iPhone 6, this much bigger device and the Plus product coming out. Maybe I'm carrying that into a restaurant. How does that start to play or integrate into this landscape? What do you think?
Well, I think one thing that you had mentioned earlier is identifying the patron early and who they are and being able to, broadcast to them or connect to them personally on things. I think that allows that
Yeah.
easier, especially with beacon technology.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have
Yeah.
you guys implemented any kind of beacon technology
We've
yet?
definitely done some pilot tests. We also have done some pilot tests with facial recognition with our high definition cameras,
Oh,
getting
interesting.
age and gender as well, and also changing or altering the digital menu board based on who's standing in front of it
Oh,
at
wow.
the time. Car full of kids, what do I want to show?
Smart boards, yeah,
Right.
really. That's interesting. Do you see that, Lyle, when you look at some of the demographic trends that are happening with millennial diners? Obviously, they're kind of taking over the landscape of the restaurant industry right now, especially in fast casual and QSR.
Yeah.
Where do you see that direction going?
I'm not sure I see them taking it over. The millennials demographic is a large cohort. It's about 100 million people. But when I go to some restaurants early morning, that coffee clutch of older men and women who are
Baby
there
boomers,
after
yeah.
their bicycle run and are going to host social functions. I mean, we've got to be careful not to have the tail wag the dog.
Right.
Just because we've got some power users with smartphones, and the overarching strategies, I think, are really speaking about a more respectful relationship toward the food service establishment and its patron that can be enabled by whatever tools, whatever mechanisms, whatever approaches are going to resonate with that patron.
Yeah.
And the tragic reality of that 80-20 rule, where 20% of any establishment's patrons are really patrons that love them and hardly need any marketing to.
Yeah.
Well, the other 80% can deliver significant new revenues and profitabilities just by generating a second or a third visit.
Yeah.
And that's the sweet spot for the use of technology. It's that business opportunity that's below the surface.
Sure.
And that's where the industry's going, I think. And smart food services providers are monitoring that sentiment very
absolutely.
carefully and staying away from anything that could be a cause for not visiting.
Intrusive, being too intrusive.
Yeah, so even our use of the term anonymous viewer analytics or viewer detection, it's not recognition.
But
There's
you don't,
no invasion of privacy here.
You don't think that, I mean, for me, I want people to know what I want. I don't need them to ask me. I want them to have enough information on me, know my dining habits. I mean, it's like going into a restaurant, whether you're my age or younger. You walk in, you want your waiter to know you. That's not an invasion of privacy. You want him to know what you drink. You want him to know what you ate last weekend, and do you really want that bone-in filet again? Type thing. To me, that doesn't feel, especially in dining, it feels like that is just enhancing the service, the experience of what we're dealing with. Do you feel like that's an issue?
What you just described is a real expression of the respect that should be provided to you in the relationship.
Right.
I would, I just reflect I laughed when I was about to order dinner and she looked at me when she took my order and over her glasses and she said, "Are you going to have anything green with that?" And so she was perceiving something that I need. I need green things. And she was engaging with me, and it caused me to change my whole order. Yes, the order took longer, but I've gone back there a lot more times since.
You added green?
I added broccoli, and that changed everything.
Well, it's good to have these kind of conversations. I think the trends that we're seeing and we're identifying, especially at shows like this at FS Tech, where we're starting to see a lot of things that you guys are introducing, and a lot of manufacturers that are really doing some cutting edge stuff. Thank you guys so much for stopping in on this episode of On Foodable. We appreciate you here on the set today.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks for checking us out on another episode here of On Foodable Weekly here at the FS Tech show in New Orleans. I'm your host, Paul Barron, signing off for another episode.